Hey everybody, this is Tim from Cornet Collections coming back at you again with another video. So unfortunately you're having to see my face for this, but this is a video response for Bradley Moore. He is asking everybody to do a hashtag 30 MLB teams Mount Rushmore. And this one was hard for me because I know mine, the Atlanta Braves, but I don't know very much of the other ones as far as the older players. So what I did was I went off of when I hear the team, who do I immediately think of? I also went off of when I hear the player, what team do I immediately think of? That way, that's who represents the team for me. I chose players that had a significant amount of time with that team. No short stays. For example, Mark Teixeira with the Atlanta Braves. No, I didn't pick him. He stayed a year, maybe something like that, a year and a half, something like that. So that's what I did with that. The players the teams that I picked, the players I have for that team. Sorry. The players I have for that team, they spent, if not the entire length of their career, maybe majority of their time of their career, or more time than any other team. So that's what I went by. It's not just Hall of Famers. It is current players also. The PED scandal, steroids, all that. I'm not paying attention to any of that. Again, it's who I think of when I hear of that team and vice versa. So there are some players that will be used probably more than one time, but I have honorable mentions for every one of them. So if not in the main Mount Rushmore, it might be in the honorable mentions. So let's go ahead and get started. I have my little list here. First off, Arizona Diamondbacks. I have Randy Johnson, Luis Gonzalez, Paul Goldschmidt, and Brandon Webb, with the honorable mention of Curt Schilling. Curt Schilling didn't stay very long, but he was there when they won the World Series, so he contributed in that aspect. By the way, the honorable mentions are somebody that might have contributed a big time for them, somebody that might have mean something to me personally, something like that. Number 2, the Atlanta Braves. Hank Aaron, Eddie Matthews, Chipper Jones, Greg Maddux, with honorable mention of Bobby Cox. You cannot leave Bobby Cox out of anything. I mean, he is one of the best managers to ever have played or to ever have managed. As a player, he wasn't as great, but as a manager, he was one of the best. Baltimore Orioles. Cal Ripken Jr., Frank Robinson, Brooks Robinson, and Eddie Murray, with honorable mention of Earl Weaver. Earl Weaver played a significant part in in that team. Boston Red Sox. Ted Williams, Carl Yastrzemski, Wade Boggs, and Roger Clemens. I am putting Roger Clemens in here because that's who he started with. That's who, when I think of Red Sox, I think of Roger. When I think of Roger, I think of Red Sox. I know he played for Toronto. I know he played for Astros. I know he played for the Yankees. I believe he did too. So, but yeah, that's who I think of. With honorable mention of David Ortiz, Big Papi. Big Papi is just such a fan favorite. That's another thing, a fan favorite for honorable mentions too. Chicago Cubs, Ernie Banks, Ryan Sandberg, Sammy Sosa, and Billy Williams, with honorable mention of Harry Carey. You gotta love Harry Carey. Harry Carey has to be mentioned with the Cubs. Chicago White Sox, Frank Thomas, Robin Ventura, Joe Jackson, and Mark Burley. Mark Burley spent most of his time with the Chicago White Sox. That's why I chose him. The White Sox were some of the harder ones to do. My honorable mention is one of those I said is kind of personal. It's a player by the name of Mark Jackson. Mark Jackson actually went to school with me. He was 2 years above me. So when he graduated, I was moving into the 11th grade. And we talked a few times. He lived down the street from me, all that stuff. I do have some of his cards. He was not a significant player at all for any team. He was at most a decent backup. Couldn't hit, but he had a better arm. So that was mine, Mark Jackson. Cincinnati Reds, Johnny Bench, Pete Rose, Joe Morgan, Barry Larkin, with honorable mention of Eric Davis. I don't know. I grew up in the late 80s, early 90s watching baseball, so Eric Davis was always there. So yeah, I had to throw him in there. Cleveland Indians, I have Larry Doby, Bob Feller, Jim Tomei, and Omar Vizquel, with honorable mention of Sandy Alomar Jr. So Jim Tomei, he is a Hall of Famer, but he has spent a lot of time with different clubs. But I remember him in the '95 World Series, playing against the Braves. Omar Vizquel is another one. He spent majority of his time with Indians, but he did play for other teams as well. Those were mine for the Indians. Colorado Rockies, I have Todd Helton, Larry Walker, Dante Bichette, and Vinny Castillo, with honorable mention of Charlie Blackmon. So, Charlie Blackmon, go ahead and get him out of the way. He's been there the longest, I believe, out of any player. He's not really Hall of Famer, I don't think yet, but you know, he is one person I think of when I think of Rockies. Larry Walker, Dante Bichette, and Vinny Castillo, they were some of the core players when Rockies came up, when they entered the expansion. So, and of course Todd Helton. All right. Detroit Tigers, Ty Cobb, Al Kaline. Yes, I do have Miggy Cabrera because he is a Tiger to me. I know he was first a Florida Marlin, but he did not become as much of a great player with them as he was when he became a Tiger. When he was a Tiger, that's where he hit majority of his home runs. That's where he has the Triple Crown. That's where he has his popularity, is them. So that's what plays a part to me. And of course, when I think of Miggy, I think of Detroit. I don't think of Florida. And then the last one is Justin Verlander. Yes, he is with the Astros right now, but he has a lot of his significance in Tigers organization. I think of him as a Tiger. I'm sorry to any of the Astros fans, but I do. So he is part of my he is part of my Tigers Mount Rushmore. My honorable mention for them would be Sparky Anderson and Lou Whitaker. You can't leave Lou out of anything. I mean, he was a Tiger. He may not have been Mr. Tiger, which I think Al Kaline was, I guess. I don't know. But, you know, he was one of the better ones that played. Alan Trammell is in there too. I left him off the list, but it's like when you speak of Lou Whitaker, you almost have to speak of Alan Trammell as well. And I personally think it's a shame that Lou is not in the Hall, but that's my feelings. And of course, Sparky. You gotta love Sparky Anderson as a manager for them. Yes, he was a manager for the Reds as well, but I remember him as a Tiger manager. So, speaking of Astros, Houston Astros. The list that I have for them: Craig Biggio, Jeff Bagwell, Roy Oswalt, and Alex Bregman. Um, I do have two of the Killer Bees. I know some other people added in Lance Berkman. I didn't really care for him as much, and I mainly think of him as a Cardinal, not a Astro. It's just me. Of course, you have to add Roy Oswalt. Um, he was a significant part of the Astros, and Bregman, whether you like him or not, he is one of the better players on their team. As cocky as he is one of the better players. My honorable mention for this is one that is probably on another list, or is going to be on another list. Nolan Ryan. He spent 9 years with that team. You can't think of the Astros and not somehow think of Nolan Ryan. So I do have him later on down, but in honorable mentions, I do have him in there. Kansas City Royals. I have George Brett, Hal McRae, Brett Saberhagen, and Salvador Perez, with the honorable mention of Bo Jackson. So, knocking out the honorable mention part first, Bo Jackson, yeah, he was with the White Sox. I think he was with the Orioles too. Kansas City Royals is where he came up. He did not spend very long in the league, unfortunately. But when he did, he made a huge impact. I mean, they had cartoons with him. You know, he was on all sorts of Wheaties and boxes and things like that. He was the man. Bo knows everything. So I only think when I think of the Royals, I think of him also. I mean, you can't not think of him. Salvador Perez, he's still playing. He is hurt a lot. But unfortunately, that's because he's a catcher. So, but I think he is one of the better players on their team right now. Whit Merrifield is really good. Some of the other players are decent, but yeah, Salvador Perez is the Royals right now. All right. Next would be Los Angeles Angels, Rod Carew, Wally Joyner, Tim Salmon, and Mike Trout. And you're going to love the honorable mentions here. It's not even a baseball player. Danny Glover from the movie Angels in the Outfield. I had no really other honorable mentions. Danny Glover, when I think of Angels, I think of Angels in the Outfield also. And I think of him as the manager. So I like that movie just because of what it is. It's just a silly kids movie, but I liked it. Yes, I have Mike Trout on here. He is going to be a career Angel. He is making significant strides in his career to become the best. I mean, he is rated a GOAT. He's basically called the GOAT. Whether he is or not, that's up for debate, but he is one of the better players on their team. He's just not winning any playoffs games, unfortunately. Wally Joyner, everybody loves Wally Joyner. Rod Carew. Rod Carew spent almost equal time with the Twins as he did with the Angels, but when I think of him, I think of the Angels, so that's why I put him with the Angels. Los Angeles Dodgers, I have Jackie Robinson, Sandy Koufax, Duke Snyder, and I have Pee Wee Reese. Other people have picked and some other players. I can't even think of some of the other players now, but I picked Pee Wee Reese. My honorable mention for the Dodgers would be Tommy Lasorda. You gotta think of Tommy and the Dodgers as one thing. I mean, he spent, I might be wrong, fact check me on this, but I think he spent upwards of 30 years as a manager for the Dodgers. So, I mean, come on. When you think of Dodgers, you have to think of Tom Minnesota on that. Miami Marlins might be somewhat controversial, but I don't care. Um, I have Giancarlo Stanton for the Marlins. Then also I have Jeff Conine, Hanley Ramirez, Charlie Johnson, the catcher Charlie Johnson, with an honorable mention of Juan Pierre. So, sorry. So I have Giancarlo Stanton because, I mean, when he when he first came up, he was the big thing. He was the home run hitter, all that stuff. Once he went to the Yankees, he was getting hurt left and right. So he really is not playing much of a part in the Yankees lineup. I mean, when him and Judge are on the same field, same game, then it's better. But both of them are kind of injured, so most of the time, so it's hard to get them two together. Outside of that, the Yankees are okay for the most part right now. Once he starts getting better and starts kind of building his tout back up for New York, then I think it would be a different story. Juan Pierre, he was a pest for the Braves, stealing bases left and right. And I know he played for other teams. I believe the Rockies were one of them. But I just think of him in a Marlins uniform. And Charlie Johnson, he was the Marlins catcher. Hanley Ramirez. I mean, I just think of him mainly in a Marlins uniform. When I think of him, I I don't think he did as much for the Red Sox as he did for the Marlins. So, Milwaukee Brewers, I have Robin Yount, Ryan Braun, Paul Molitor, Cecil Cooper, and my honorable mention is Bob Uecker. I I hear Bob Uecker when I watch the Brewers. I don't know, I just do. And no, I don't have Major League playing in the background either. But yeah, Bob Uecker's my honorable mention. Cecil Cooper, he was just one of the ones that's been with the team the longest. I don't know how much of a contributing factor he was for the team. This is one of those teams that I wasn't really sure of outside of the mainstream guys. Ryan Braun, been with the team forever. Yeah, he's had his difficulties, but I mean, he is a Brewer. I have to admit, he is a Brewer, so that's why I have him. Paul Molitor, pretty much equal time between Brewers and Twins. Um, but, I mean, he's a Brewer to me, also. Speaking of Twins, Minnesota Twins, I have Torrey Hunter, Joe Mauer, Harmon Killebrew, and Kirby Puckett. My honorable mention for them is Rob Carew. He spent 12 seasons with this team, with the Twins. So, yes, I am going to have him in there. Torrey Hunter, I mean, he was a Tiger, he was an Angel, but he's always going to be a Twin to me. That's me. And you can't leave Kirby Puckett out. He meant so much for that team. Even after his passing, I think he still means a lot for that team. New York Mets, I have Tom Seaver, Mike Piazza, David Wright, and Jacob deGrom, with honorable mention of my favorite childhood player, Dwight Gooden. I didn't have Dwight Gooden in the main list because he came up through the Mets. He wasn't, he was a fastball pitcher for the most part. He was one of their best pitchers. He did help them win a World Series, or he was involved in it. but he didn't get his real notoriety as far as a quality pitcher, which I don't even know if some people think of him as still a quality pitcher, but a quality pitcher until he went to New York. That's where he pitched a no hitter. Um, so yeah, Mike Piazza. I hear Mike Piazza. I know he played for the Dodgers forever. He was brought up through the Dodgers, but I still think of the first game after 9/11 where the Braves played the Mets, and he represented New York there. So that's why I considered Mike Piazza in for New York. I know there was tons of other teams or tons of other players I could have gone with, but that's my guess, my pick. New York Yankees. I'm gonna have what pretty much everybody else has: Babe Ruth, Mickey Mantle, Lou Gehrig, Joe DiMaggio. My honorable mentions, however, are Derek Jeter and Don Mattingly. Don Mattingly, Mr. Baseball. I mean, he was a long time Yankee. I don't think he played for any other team, actually. I know he's managed two different teams, but I don't think he's played for any other team. He was loved by everybody. And of course, the captain, who played his entire career with the Yankees. He's been in several World Series to help them win, so you can't leave him out. Oakland A's. I have Raleigh Fingers, Ricky Henderson, Mark McGwire, and Vida Blue. Mark McGwire, I know the whole home run chase was when he was with the Cardinals, but he's an A. Enough said. I mean, that's my eyes. He's an A, just like Jose Canseco's an A. So, my honorable mentions will be, sorry, Dennis Eckersley. Uh, and not only because, he was an A for majority of me watching baseball, but he shares the same birthday as me. So he's October 3rd. So yeah, I kind of have to pick him for that. Um, my next one's going to be the Philadelphia Phillies. Mike Schmidt, Steve Carlton, Richie Ashburn, and Robin Roberts. My honorable mention for them, for this team, is the, I'm saying the Jimmy Rollins. Yeah, I know Jimmy played for other teams later on in his career, but he's a Philly to me. Pittsburgh Pirates. Roberto Clemente, Willie Stargell, Honus Wagner. My fourth one, everybody's pretty much going to have those three. My fourth one's going to be Jason Kendall. He was a pest as a catcher, but he does represent, to me, Pirates. My honorable mention is Andy Van Slyke. So, I mean, I think of Pirates, I do think of Andy Van Slyke. I did leave off Bobby Bonilla, sorry, and Barry Bonds, but that's because they didn't play as much of a contributing factor to the Pirates as they did for the other teams. San Diego Padres. I have Tony Gwynn, Trevor Hoffman, Benito Santiago, and Jake Peavy. Jake Peavy spent a long time with the Padres. He was so dependable for them. Benito Santiago, same, spent so long with the Padres. He was dependable. My honorable mention for the Padres would be Dave Winfield, another one that shares the same birthday as me. I know, to me, Dave Winfield, I think more along the lines of the Yankees, but he did spend a good amount of time with the Padres too, so I put him in. Sorry, put him in with the Padres. San Francisco Giants. I have Willie Mays, Barry Bonds, Juan Marichal, and Willie McCovey. And I have honorable mention. Well, I actually had three. I'm sorry, I had five names, but I'm going to put this other name with the honorable mentions. Uh, my honorable mentions would be Will Clark and Christy Matheson. Christy Matheson was way before my time. I don't know. I'm assuming he did really well with his contributing to the team. I don't know. But you can't, I guess you can swap somebody out with him. It's just hard to do that. Maybe Barry Bonds with him. But Barry Bonds was like, he was God to the Giants. So, yeah. Seattle Mariners, I have Ken Griffey Jr., Ichiro Suzuki, Edgar Martinez, and I have Jay Buhner. Jay Buhner was always there. You know, he was a pain in the butt, but he was always there. Pain in the butt for non-Mariner fans. My honorable mention is Randy Johnson because he spent a good bit of his career with them. So I do have him on here as honorable mention. St. Louis Cardinals, I have Ozzie Smith, Albert Pujols, Lou Brock, and Stan Musial. Now I have Albert Pujols in there because yes, he is an Angel, but he was the machine as a Cardinal. He was the Cardinals, the face of the Cardinals back in early 2000s, early to mid 2000s. So, yeah, I mean, I have to put him in there. My honorable mention is Mark McGwire because of the home run chase and all that other stuff. So, I mean, you kind of think of him in a Cardinals uniform as well. My next one is Tampa Bay Rays. I have Evan Longoria, Blake Snell, David Price, and James Shields. Honorable mention is Fred McGriff. I mean, I had to put Fred McGriff in here somewhere. And I wanted him in the Padres. I wanted him with the Braves. Wanted him with the Blue Jays. But I put him in as a Tampa Bay Ray. Because that was towards the end of his career. And that's kind of what I started thinking of. Even though I loved him as a Brave, he just didn't spend enough time there. Texas Rangers, Bradley, your team. Who I have is Ivan Rodriguez. I say Ivan Rodriguez. You have Pudge. You have the Ryan Express, Nolan Ryan, Juan Gonzalez, and Rafael Palmeiro. Rafael Palmeiro, probably better known for the Orioles, but I do think of him on the Rangers team. And honorable mention, shout out to Card Hobbyist, is Julio Franco, and not the snowman he has. So Julio Franco is my honorable mention for them. His unique batting style, I just remember the baseball cards with him in a Rangers uniform, holding that bat the way he does. So, the ageless wonder. Toronto Blue Jays. I have John Olerud, Roberto Alomar, Joe Carter, and George Bell. My honorable mention is Jesse Barfield. Kind of enough said right there. Roberto Alomar and Joe Carter both played for other teams. In fact, they both played for the Indians. They both played for the Padres, but I remember them as Blue Jays. So, and of course, George Bell, longtime Blue Jay. Jesse Barfield, longtime Blue Jay. My last team is going to be the Washington Nationals / Montreal Expos. I have Vladimir Guerrero Sr., Gary Carter, Ryan Zimmerman, and Tim Raines. So I mean, those are fairly self-explanatory. Vladdy was huge for the Angels, but I mean, he's an expo to me. I'm sorry, he's an expo. Gary Carter, huge for the Mets, but he's an expo to me. It might have been when I started watching. That's what draws me into those particular teams. But my honorable mention is Moises Alou. Yes, he was a Cub, and he played a big part as a Cub, but he's an expo. So that's pretty much all I have. So I just hit 30 minutes. I'm sorry for this video taking so long. That is my list right here. I'm going to leave a link to Briley Moore's channel. Y'all get in on this and do a hashtag, hashtag 30 MLB 30 MLB Team Mount Rushmore. I'm getting tongue tied. I'm sorry. It's late for me. But I appreciate y'all hanging in there, watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment down below, hit that notification button in the top right hand corner, and I will see you guys later. Bye.